cold Texo cheated on his wife for being poor. Years later, her daughter returned as the city's richest. Champagne flutes froze mid-toast as she entered the gala. 10 years of calculated patience culminating in this moment when Ethan Cross finally recognized the daughter of the woman he'd discarded. Have you ever fantasized about returning to face someone who underestimated you? Transformed and powerful? Hi viewers, kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. Warm welcome to the family. Enjoy the story. Champagne flutes froze mid-toast as she entered the gala. 10 years of calculated patience culminating in this moment when Ethan Cross finally recognized the daughter of the woman he discarded. The Fairmont's Grand Ballroom gleamed with San Francisco elite, crystal chandeliers reflecting off designer watches and practiced smiles. This ecosystem of power had been Ethan's playground until tonight, when the spotlight abandoned him for her. Naomi Blake. The name rippled through the crowd like a stone dropped in still water. She moved with measured grace, her midnight blue gown a stark contrast to the diamonds at her throat, diamonds that had once belonged to her mother. The tech mogul's smile faltered, his glass suspended between table and lips as recognition dawned in his eyes. Not just recognition, fear. Ladies and gentlemen, the event chairman announced, our keynote speaker and newest major investor in Cross Technologies, Ms. Naomi Blake. Murmurs erupted. Phones emerged to capture the moment Ethan Cross's face drained of color. 10 years ago, he'd thrown away Mariah Blake and her teenage daughter without a backward glance. Tonight, that daughter owned controlling interest in his company. Have you ever fantasized about returning to face someone who underestimated you? Transformed and powerful? What would that moment feel like? That electricity, that vindication, that perfect alignment of justice? As Naomi approached the microphone, the golden envelope remained tucked in her clutch, the true weapon she'd come to deploy. Good evening, she began, eyes locked on Ethan's. Some of you knew my mother, Mariah Blake. With those words, the color drained from Ethan's face. He knew. This wasn't random. This wasn't business. This was war. Thank you all for the warm welcome. Naomi's voice carried through the ballroom with practiced calm, betraying none of the thundering heartbeat beneath her ribs. It's been a long journey to this stage. Ethan shifted in his chair, his fingers whitening around his champagne stem. The perfect tableau of power disturbed by an unexpected variable, her. His trophy wife leaned over, whispering urgently in his ear. Too late for warnings now. Cross Technologies represents innovation, disruption, revolution. Naomi continued, her gaze sweeping the crowd before landing again on Ethan. But sometimes, revolution comes from unexpected quarters. Board members exchanged glances. Investors checked portfolios on phones beneath tables. The air grew heavy with questions no one dared ask aloud. Behind her practiced smile, memories flickered. Her mother's tears, their small apartment. The years of struggle while Ethan built his empire on stolen dreams. Each word from her lips now was a step toward balancing scales long tipped in his favor. As of this morning, I've acquired a controlling interest in Cross Technologies. The statement landed like a bomb. Security guards shifted nervously as Ethan half rose from his seat. That's impossible, he challenged, voice carrying across suddenly silent tables. Naomi smiled, not the professional smile of her presentation, the cold, satisfied smile of a predator. Your CFO didn't think so when he accepted my offer this morning. Neither did your board when they reviewed the numbers. She held his gaze. Perhaps you should check your messages, Ethan. His phone was already in his hand, face illuminated by urgent alerts. Each swipe aged him visibly. The crowd watched, enthralled by the unfolding drama. Silicon Valley thrived on disruption, just not usually this personal. Effective immediately, Cross Technologies will undergo strategic reorganization. Naomi continued as if the exchange hadn't occurred. Starting with leadership, Ethan stood now, napkin thrown aside. This is absurd. You can't just walk in and... But I can, she interrupted smoothly. And I did. Just like you walked into my mother's life, took what you wanted, and discarded the rest. The room went still. This wasn't just business. The personal vendetta became clear, fascinating the audience like a high-stakes theater. Have you ever witnessed the moment someone realizes they've lost everything? The precise second when arrogance transforms into desperation? Drop a comment below if you've seen that power shift happen in real time. As Ethan stormed toward the exit, security respectfully blocking his approach to the stage, Naomi concluded her speech to thunderous applause. Her victory lap, her moment. But the golden envelope remained unopened. The true reckoning hadn't even begun. 10 years earlier, Mariah Blake stood in the rain outside their Nob Hill mansion, locksmith changing the codes while her husband entertained his new girlfriend inside. "Ma'am, I need your keys to," the locksmith mumbled, avoiding eye contact as rain plastered Mariah's hair to her face. 16-year-old Naomi watched from their car, fury building as her mother, still wearing the dress from the charity gala they'd been asked to leave, handed over her last connection to the home she'd made. "He can't just throw us out," Naomi had protested earlier. "Half of everything is yours." Mariah's hollow laugh still echoed in her memory. "Nothing was ever mine, sweetheart. I didn't read the prenup carefully enough." The Seattle rain pounded against the window of their one-bedroom apartment, where Mariah unfolded divorce papers on a second-hand table. The final page marked with coffee stains from Ethan's breakfast meeting where he'd signed away 10 years of marriage between email checks. "He's giving us 3 months of support," Mariah whispered, voice cracking. "Says that's generous considering I brought nothing to the marriage. Nothing except unwavering support during his startup years. Nothing except editing his pitches, hosting investors, sacrificing her own small bookstore to follow his career from Portland to Seattle to San Francisco. What about his promises?" Naomi demanded, remembering Ethan's toast at their anniversary just months earlier. "For richer or poorer, in sickness and health." "Words," Mariah interrupted. "Just pretty words. When my family's bookstore went under after the flood, I became a liability. Ethan needs a wife who enhances his image, not one who reminds investors of failure." That night, memories of their early days haunted Mariah. Ethan's passionate pursuit, their simple wedding, nights spent dreaming of success they'd build together. How had adoration transformed into such contempt? Would you rather be loved deeply once and discarded, or never experience that depth of connection at all? What price would you pay for true passion? The answer shapes everything that follows. When Mariah finally fell asleep clutching old photographs, 16-year-old Naomi opened her laptop and typed a single search: how to build a business empire. The screen's blue light illuminated her tears, but her fingers remained steady. "I promise you, Mom," she whispered. "Someday he'll feel what you're feeling right now. Someday he'll lose everything that matters." She saved articles about venture capital, angel investors, startup incubators. She researched cross-technology structure, its vulnerabilities, its competitors. Ethan had taught her one valuable lesson. In business, sentimentality was weakness. Emotional attachments were liabilities. Fine, she would become the kind of business operator he would respect, right before she destroyed him. As dawn broke over Seattle, Naomi had outlined her decade-long plan, not just for revenge, but for justice. Ethan had discarded their past. She would demolish his future. While Ethan celebrated another acquisition with champagne and models, Naomi was calculating 5 moves ahead, learning his patterns, weaknesses, and the exact price of his downfall. Harvard Business School's library became her sanctuary, ancient oak tables witnessing the birth of a plan years in the making. While classmates networked at parties, Naomi dissected Ethan's company structure with the precision of a surgeon mapping incision points. "You're obsessed with cross-technologies," her roommate observed one night, finding Naomi surrounded by financial reports and sticky notes. "Trying to land a job there after graduation?" Naomi smiled. "Something like that." She tracked his business decisions like others followed celebrities, noting how he acquired competitors, when he expanded internationally, which partnerships flourished or failed. Each move revealed his thinking: aggressive, impatient, hungry for prestige over sustainability. "Ms. Blake, Your analysis of predatory acquisition strategies is quite remarkable, her professor commented, returning her paper. You understand the psychology behind corporate takeovers better than students twice your age. Of course she did. She'd witnessed the ultimate predator up close. Her first small victory came during her MBA program, a tiny investment in a startup that competed with one of Ethan's smaller holdings. When that company sold for triple its projected value, Naomi reinvested everything, not in stocks or bonds, but in carefully chosen ventures positioned against Ethan's vulnerabilities. Have you ever sacrificed personal happiness for a greater goal? Was it worth the years of solitary focus? Some missions demand complete dedication, but at what cost? Dating became strategic networking. Social events became intelligence gathering. Even as she built her own legitimate business, an e-commerce platform connecting artisans directly to luxury markets. Every decision oriented toward her ultimate target. You should come out tonight, a handsome classmate urged after graduation. Celebrate a little. Life's too short to work constantly. Life's too short to waste time, she countered, declining his invitation like dozens before. She remained focused. Relationships were distractions. Romance was vulnerability. Ethan had taught her mother that lesson all too well. When her first startup sold for 8 figures, journalists asked about her inspiration. My mother taught me persistence, she answered with a camera-ready smile. But her assistant noticed how she circled Ethan Cross's name in that day's business section, marking him like prey. 3 companies later, Naomi Blake had built enough wealth and connections to begin her endgame. She moved back to San Francisco, renting a penthouse overlooking the bay in Cross Technologies headquarters. Each morning, she watched employees stream into the glass tower. Each night, she studied the lights still burning in the executive offices. She'd built her reputation carefully, innovative but private, successful but mysterious. The perfect investor profile to approach Cross Technologies when they needed fresh capital for their new quantum computing division. The chess pieces were finally arranged. Time to make her move. The letter arrived on Mariah's deathbed. Yellowed pages confessing the secret Ethan had built his empire upon, and the legal proof that would unravel everything he'd stolen. Portland, Oregon Memorial's hospice wing smelled of antiseptic and dying flowers. As machines tracked Mariah's fading heartbeat, her trembling hands passed Naomi a bundle of documents. Evidence preserved for this moment when truth could finally outweigh fear. I should have given you this years ago, Mariah whispered, oxygen tubes distorting her words. But he threatened to take everything if I ever spoke up. What is it, Mom? Naomi asked, taking the weathered envelope. Your grandfather's original designs. The operating system Ethan's first company was built on. Mariah's eyes, though clouded with morphine, burned with long-suppressed fury. He didn't just steal my heart, Naomi. He stole your grandfather's life's work. Inside the envelope, Naomi found dated schematics, original code printouts, and a letter from a patent attorney warning her grandfather about sharing prototypes before securing legal protection. Dad trusted Ethan, Mariah continued. Brought him into our home, showed him everything. When Dad refused to sell his system, the brake lines in his car mysteriously failed the next week. Cold understanding washed over Naomi. Her grandfather's accident had happened months before she was born. She'd always known Ethan was ruthless, but this was criminal. The police investigated, but found nothing, Mariah said. 3 months later, Ethan launched his first company with an operating system identical to Dad's design. Then he pursued me, the grieving daughter who didn't understand the technology but inherited the remaining prototypes. What secret would be powerful enough to make you keep silent for years? What would finally make you reveal it? Sometimes protection becomes permission when we stay quiet too long. Why tell me now? Naomi asked, though she already knew. Because I'm not afraid anymore, Mariah replied, a ghost of her former smile appearing. And because you're strong enough to finish what I couldn't. Together, they transferred the documents to a golden envelope, monogrammed, ironically, with the Cross Technologies logo from a shareholder package Ethan had sent years ago, believing the gesture would silence Mariah with memories of what she'd lost. "Promise me something," Mariah whispered as the morphine drew her towards sleep. "Don't let revenge consume you like grief consumed me. Use this for justice, not just destruction." As Mariah drew her final breath, Naomi whispered a promise against her mother's cooling cheek. The letter, now sealed in the gold envelope, would wait exactly one more year before destroying everything he loved. She held her mother's hand long after it grew cold, mentally revising her plans. This wasn't just about Ethan losing his company anymore. This was about revealing the criminal foundation it was built upon. The nurse found her there at dawn, the golden envelope clutched to her chest, her mother's locket now around her own neck, containing a microchip no one knew existed. She entered his world not as an enemy, but as his most valuable asset, the brilliant consultant whose advice he eagerly followed, never recognizing he was implementing his own destruction. The sleek glass conference room of Cross Technologies overlooked the Bay Bridge, 60 floors above the city Ethan believed he owned. As quarterly projections flashed across screens, he nodded approvingly at the brilliant strategy presented by the consultant he'd hired 3 months ago, never seeing how each suggestion subtly diverted resources from his core protections. "These recommendations are exactly what we need," Ethan announced to his executive team. "The Blake Consulting Group has an exceptional track record with tech transitions." Naomi nodded professionally, her expression revealing nothing. The irony of operating under her mother's maiden name, right under Ethan's nose, provided cold satisfaction. She'd altered her appearance enough that he didn't recognize the teenager he'd evicted a decade ago. Darker hair, contacts changing her eye color, a polished demeanor replacing adolescent awkwardness. "The quantum computing division needs restructuring," she continued. "I suggest moving key personnel from your security infrastructure team. Their expertise would be valuable during this transition." Translation: weaken your defenses while I position for attack. "Brilliant," Ethan agreed. "Make it happen." Week by week, she embedded herself deeper. Her recommendations were legitimately valuable. She wasn't sabotaging the company. That would hurt innocent employees. She was simply creating openings, learning passwords, gaining allies. Preparing for the moment, she would reveal herself and deliver the golden envelope's contents to the board. Have you ever hidden in plain sight, watching someone who hurt you without them recognizing you've changed? What did that power feel like? The control of knowing while they remain ignorant creates an intoxicating advantage. Only one person seemed suspicious: Alex Chun, the company's young COO. Where others accepted her expertise without question, his dark eyes followed her movements with quiet assessment. "Your analysis seems personal," he commented after one presentation. "As if you understand our company's DNA. Good consultants become part of the organization they serve," she replied smoothly. "And what happens when the consultation ends?" he asked, holding her gaze a moment too long. Something uncomfortable flickered in her chest. Awareness, warning, or something more dangerous. Alex had risen through Cross Technologies on merit, not connections. Unlike Ethan, he built rather than taken. His loyalty to the company was genuine. He was also the one variable she hadn't fully calculated: attractive, perceptive, and potentially observant enough to recognize her beneath her careful disguise. After the meeting, Alex cornered her in the elevator. "I know I've seen you somewhere before," he said, standing close enough that she could smell his cologne. "Something about your eyes seems familiar." Her heart raced, not from fear of discovery, but from the unexpected realization that his suspicion felt thrillingly dangerous. "I have one of those faces," she replied, stepping out as the doors opened. "See you tomorrow, Mr. Chun." She felt his gaze follow her across the lobby, a complication she hadn't anticipated. Alex Chun was the one variable she hadn't calculated, the man who could either expose her true identity or become the unwitting key to Ethan's complete destruction. "The Wellington acquisition needs fresh eyes," Ethan announced Monday morning. "Naomi, Alex, you'll work together exclusively on this. We need it closed by month end." Her careful planning hadn't accounted for daily proximity to the one person showing signs of recognizing her. Now they'd share a project room, working side by side for weeks. The private dining room at Quince offered perfect cover, ambient noise masking conversations while giving illusion of intimacy. Candlelight softened her calculated expressions as Alex described his journey from coding prodigy to Ethan's right hand, unaware that each personal detail he shared became ammunition for her arsenal. "You started from nothing," she observed, noting parallels to her own path. Community college scholarships, coding competitions, 7 roommates in a 2-bedroom apartment, he confirmed. "Ethan took a chance on me when I was 22. Sounds like you're loyal to him." "To the company," Alex corrected, surprising her. "To the innovation we create. Ethan is—" He paused, swirling his wine. "Complicated." Interest flickered. A crack in his allegiance? "How so?" "Let's just say his business decisions don't always align with my ethics," Alex admitted. "But the work we do matters. Our technologies help people." For the first time, guilt nudged her resolve. Alex believed in the company's mission. Her vendetta would affect thousands of employees who, like him, had built something meaningful despite Ethan's corruption at the top. When have you felt torn between your goals and unexpected feelings? Has attraction ever made you question your most certain plans? The heart complicates even the most righteous missions. Their hands brushed over market projections, sending unexpected electricity up her arm. She jerked away, knocking over her water glass. "I've got it," they said simultaneously, both reaching for the napkin. Fingers interlaced by accident. Neither pulled away immediately. "Sorry," he murmured, dark eyes studying her face with uncomfortable perception. "You remind me of someone." "Who?" she asked, pulse quickening. The waiter's arrival broke the moment. Check signed. They walked silently to the elevator bank in her building where he'd parked. Confined in the mirrored box rising toward her penthouse, awareness hummed between them. Standing too close, breathing too carefully, neither acknowledging the charged atmosphere. "This is me," she said unnecessarily as the doors opened to her private foyer. "Naomi," he said, holding the door as she stepped out. "Whoever you remind me of, it's a good thing." Back in her penthouse, she tried deleting Alex's contact information 3 times and restored it each time. The golden envelope lay on her desk, a reminder of her purpose. But for the first time in 10 years, revenge didn't feel like enough to fill the emptiness inside her. Her phone lit up with his text. "Left some projections in your folder. Early breakfast tomorrow to review." She hesitated before typing. 7:30. Blue bottle on market. Complicated indeed. She prepared for every scenario except this one. Falling for the one man whose loyalty to Ethan could destroy everything she'd worked toward. Weeks of collaboration blurred professional lines. Late nights reviewing acquisition details became conversations about life philosophies. Coffee meetings extended into walks along the Embarcadero. Strategy sessions revealed matching minds that anticipated each other's thoughts. San Francisco fog pressed against the office windows like curious ghosts as they worked past midnight. Takeout containers and complex code creating unexpected intimacy. The building stood empty except for them. 2 insomniacs finding unexpected connection in the digital glow of problems that couldn't be solved in daylight hours. "Why consulting?" Alex asked, leaning back in his chair. "With your skills, you could run your own company." If only he knew. "I did. Sold 3 of them." Surprise flickered across his face. "You're full of secrets, aren't you? More than you can imagine," she thought. "What about you?" she deflected. "You could work anywhere. Why stay with Ethan? He takes credit for your innovations." Alex's expression darkened. "The company is bigger than him. What we build helps millions. My team deserves leadership that values them, not just their output." "You stay for them," she realized. Another complication. Alex wasn't just Ethan's right hand. He was a shield protecting good people from Ethan's worst impulses. "Someone has to," he said simply. The coding problem they've been solving finally yielded results. Algorithms aligning perfectly. Their simultaneous exclamations of triumph became laughter, faces close as they examined the screen. laughter faded into something heavier. Awareness. Possibility. "We should celebrate," he said, voice dropping lower. "It's 2 a.m. I know a place with a view that never closes." The observation deck was technically closed, but Alex knew the night guard. 65 floors up, San Francisco sprawled before them, a galaxy of lights mirroring the stars above. "Worth bending the rules?" he asked, standing closer than necessary. "Have you ever found yourself drawn to someone who complicates your carefully laid plans? What did you choose, the connection or the goal? Some choices aren't between right and wrong, but between different kinds of right." "I don't get close to clients," she said, voice betraying her. "Is that all I am? A client? You work for the man I'm planning to destroy," she thought but couldn't say. Instead, she turned toward the view, heart racing traitorously. His hand touched her shoulder, gently turning her back. "What are you afraid of?" he asked. "Everything. Her mission, her identity, the fact that for the first time in 10 years, she wanted something beyond revenge." Their first kiss happened against the window overlooking the city, his hands gentle in her hair, her body responding despite her mind's warnings. Passion she denied herself for years breaking through her calculated veneer. Time suspended as rational thought surrendered to feeling. His touch awakened nerves she'd forgotten existed. Each kiss deepened, walls crumbling with dangerous speed. "We should stop," she whispered unconvincingly against his lips. "Should we?" His forehead rested against hers, breath mingling. Her phone shattered the moment, screen lighting with alerts from her surveillance program. Ethan was calling an emergency board meeting tomorrow. Her timeline had accelerated without warning. "Is everything okay?" Alex asked, noting her expression. "Just work," she lied, reality crashing back. Tomorrow was the shareholders' meeting where she would reveal herself. Tonight, she'd kiss the man who would stand beside Ethan when she destroyed him. "I should go," she said, already mentally preparing for tomorrow's confrontation. "Naomi," he called as she reached the elevator. "This isn't finished." If only he knew how true that was, and how differently it would end than either imagined. The boardroom fell silent as understanding dawned in Ethan's eyes. Recognition of who she really was crashing into the realization that he'd handed her the keys to his kingdom. 64 floors above San Francisco, power shifted like tectonic plates. The mahogany table that had witnessed countless deals and destructions now hosted its most dramatic coup as shareholders' expressions moved from confusion to shock to calculation. Vultures recognizing when to abandon dying prey. "Before we begin," Naomi interrupted Ethan's opening remarks. Rising from her seat, "I'd like to address the board directly." Ethan frowned. "That's not on the agenda, Ms. Blake." "No," she agreed, "but this is..." She placed documents before each board member. "My legal name is Naomi Blake Cross. My mother was Mariah Blake Cross, Ethan's ex-wife." Gasps rippled through the room. Alex stiffened beside Ethan, eyes widening with recognition and betrayal. This consulting engagement was a conflict of interest. Ethan snapped, face reddening. "Precisely," she agreed calmly. "But not for the reason you think." From her briefcase, she withdrew the golden envelope. "This contains evidence that Cross Technologies' founding intellectual property was stolen from Thomas Blake, my grandfather. Ethan married my mother to gain access to remaining prototypes after my grandfather's suspicious death." Board members flipped through her documentation with increasing concern. Financial records, patent applications, timeline inconsistencies. "These are fabrications," Ethan sputtered, but his complexion had gone ashen. "The SEC doesn't think so," Naomi countered. "Neither does the Department of Justice, who received copies this morning." Chaos erupted. Legal counsel huddled at one end of the table. Shareholders whispered urgently. Alex sat frozen, eyes locked on Naomi with an expression she couldn't decipher. As majority shareholder following this morning's final acquisition of Westfield's stake, she continued over the commotion, "I call for immediate removal of Ethan Cross as CEO, pending investigation." What's more satisfying, achieving a long-sought goal or preserving a meaningful connection? Have you ever reached a victory only to question if you've lost something more valuable? Justice has many prices, some we don't anticipate. All in favor. The board chairman called, already distancing himself from the sinking ship. Hands raised around the table. Even Ethan's allies recognized the evidence was substantial enough to warrant action. Motion carries, the chairman announced grimly. Security appeared in the doorway, arranged in advance through Naomi's careful planning. You'll regret this, Ethan hissed as they approached. You have no idea what you've done. I know exactly what I've done, she replied evenly. Justice has a long memory, Ethan. As security escorted Ethan from his own building, he locked eyes with her. You think you've won, he said, voice eerily calm. But you have no idea what I'm capable of when I have nothing left to lose. Behind her, Alex quietly gathered his things, avoiding her gaze entirely. The victory she'd imagined for 10 years tasted hollow as she watched him walk away without a word. She'd won the company. She'd avenged her mother. Why did it feel like she'd lost something irreplaceable in the process? She prepared for Ethan's counterattack, but not for the collateral damage that would threaten everything and everyone she'd allowed herself to care about. News vans crowded her building entrance like hungry predators, cameras flashing through rain as headlines screamed accusations across every platform. The empire she'd built with precise calculation now faced the chaos of Ethan's desperate final stand, a cornered man with nothing to lose and decades of dark connections. Tech heiress or corporate raider, Blair the Wall Street Journal. Cross-family feud tank stock, announced CNBC. Revenge takeover threatens thousands of jobs, warned the Chronicle. Alone in her penthouse, Naomi monitored the crisis response team she'd assembled to stabilize the company. Employees deserved protection from the crossfire. Alex had been right about that. The company was more than its corrupt founder. Her phone buzzed constantly with calls from board members, investors, reporters. None from the one person she found herself wanting to hear from. The Bloomberg alert made her freeze. Cross Technologies COO Alex Chin supports ousted CEO's defense. Heart-sinking, she clicked through to footage of Alex leaving the courthouse after Ethan's emergency hearing seeking to block the board's decision. Mr. Chun, do you believe these allegations against Ethan Cross? A reporter shouted. Alex's face remained carefully neutral. I believe in due process. Evidence should be examined properly, not tried in media headlines. The camera caught him signing legal documents alongside Ethan's attorneys. When has victory turned hollow in your life? Have you ever achieved exactly what you wanted only to discover it wasn't what you needed? Sometimes winning costs more than losing ever could. Her security team called with warnings. Her personal accounts have been targeted by sophisticated cyber attacks. Former business associates suddenly canceled partnerships. Financial journalists were receiving anonymous tips about alleged improprieties in her previous companies. Ethan wasn't just fighting back, he was scorching the earth. Worst was the silence from her new employees. People she'd hoped to lead were terrified, watching their company become a battlefield, their jobs collateral damage in a family vendetta. Alone on her balcony, rain soaking through her clothes, Naomi faced the possibility that her mother had been right about the cost of revenge. Justice for her grandfather had been necessary, but her method had endangered thousands of innocent lives. The memory of Alex's touch haunted her. Their connection had been real, making his apparent betrayal cut deeper than she'd imagined possible. Had everything between them been strategic on his part? Had she misjudged him completely? Her phone lit up with an unknown number. Meet me at Crissy Field, East Beach, 1 hour, Alex's voice said before disconnecting. Come alone. We're both being watched. Outside her window, a black sedan had been parked for hours. The driver's face obscured, but his intent clear. État de surveillance. Common sense said to ignore Alex's call. It could be a trap. After all, he'd publicly supported Ethan. But something deeper than logic made her change into jeans and a dark jacket, tuck her hair under a baseball cap, and take the service elevator to the garage where her rarely used Honda waited, the one vehicle Ethan's people wouldn't recognize. As she navigated rain-slicked streets toward the Golden Gate, questions crowded her mind. Was Alex truly Ethan's loyal defender? Or was something more complicated happening behind the headlines? She'd spent a decade becoming the perfect strategic operator. She'd calculated every variable except one, her own heart. The windshield wipers beat a steady rhythm as she approached Crissy Field, fog swallowing the bridge's upper reaches. Through sheets of rain, she spotted a solitary figure waiting by the water and felt something dangerously close to hope. With rain soaking through her clothes, she realized the truth. Alex hadn't betrayed her to Ethan. He'd been gathering evidence against the man he'd protected for years. Crissy Field stretched empty under threatening skies, Golden Gate Bridge disappearing into fog that swallowed its upper reaches. Cold wind carried salt spray and whispered warnings as they walked close enough to appear casual to watching eyes, yet their words remained private. Conspirators against a man who betrayed them both. "You're working with him," Naomi accused, keeping pace beside Alex, eyes scanning for observers. "I'm playing along," he corrected. "The documents I signed? Authorization to access archived servers. The ones Ethan conveniently forgot I helped design. The ones containing backup files of everything he's tried to delete." Hope flickered dangerously. "Why would you help me after what I did? You mean lying about who you were? Using me to get to Ethan?" His jaw tightened. "I'm not helping you, Naomi. I'm helping 5,000 employees who don't deserve to lose everything because of a battle between you and Ethan." Rain intensified, forcing them towards shelter beneath the bridge structure. Alex pulled a flash drive from his pocket. "Ethan's been deleting evidence since the moment you revealed yourself. But our backup protocols captured everything, including his attempt to transfer patents to offshore holdings this morning." Their fingers touched as she took the drive, lingering a moment too long. "You could have mailed this," she said softly. "Why meet in person?" "Because I needed to see your face when I asked, is this just about revenge, or do you actually care about what happens to the company, to the people?" The accusation stung because it contained truth. "It started as revenge," she admitted. "But it's more now. These people built something meaningful despite Ethan. They deserved better." Something shifted in his expression. Relief? Recognition? Have you discovered an ally in someone you least expected? Has a perceived enemy ever become your greatest support? Life's most powerful alliances often form in moments of shared purpose beyond personal gain. The downpour intensified, thunder cracking overhead. They pressed against the concrete structure, suddenly inches apart, mutual distrust giving way to something more complicated. "I watched you for weeks, trying to figure out your angle," he confessed. "I never expected this," she finished when he hesitated. The kiss happened like gravity, inevitable, powerful, neither fully initiating nor able to resist. His hands framed her face, her fingers gripped his rain-soaked jacket, mutual frustration and attraction breaking through professional barriers. When they broke apart, headlights swept across the parking lot. "He's found us," Alex whispered, pulling her deeper into shadows. "There's something about Ethan you still don't know, something worse than what your mother told you." The approaching car door opened, revealing not Ethan but his personal attorney, clutching a file with Mariah's name. Alex's expression darkened. "He's not just coming after your company, Naomi. He's coming after your mother's legacy." The flash drive contained a final piece, proof that Ethan hadn't just stolen her mother's company. He'd orchestrated the accident that killed Mariah's father when he refused to sell. Hotel Monaco's secure suite became their war room, laptop screens casting blue shadows across scattered documents as decades-old police reports gained new context. Security footage from 3 cameras revealed the truth Mariah had suspected but could never prove: the deliberate brake tampering on her father's car, traced through shell companies back to Ethan's early venture capital. He paid this mechanic $50,000 through an offshore account. Alex pointed to transaction records. "The same mechanic who inspected your grandfather's car the day before his accident." Naomi stared at the evidence, stomach churning. "Mom always believed it wasn't an accident, but we had no proof." "Ethan buried it well," Alex agreed. "But he kept records of everything. Insurance against partners who might turn on him. Police photographs showed the wreckage of her grandfather's car, crumpled against a highway barrier. The same brilliant mind that had created revolutionary operating systems, destroyed because he refused to sell to an ambitious young investor named Ethan Cross. "Murder," she whispered. "Not just theft." Alex nodded grimly. "The statute of limitations has expired on the intellectual property theft, but not on this. That's why he's desperate. Your takeover didn't just threaten his company. It gave you access to his private servers." Something inside her shifted, revenge transforming into justice. This wasn't just about her mother's broken heart anymore. This was about her grandfather's stolen life. How would you react discovering someone had hurt your family more deeply than you ever knew? Would it fuel your determination or break your resolve? Some truths demand action, no matter the personal cost. "We need to move quickly," Alex warned. "Ethan's attorney is filing injunctions against your access to company archives. He knows what's hidden there." Their hands met across document piles, fingers intertwining with new purpose. No longer just attraction, but alliance. "Why are you really helping me?" she asked. "This could destroy your career too." His expression darkened. 3 years ago, I found financial irregularities. When I brought them to Ethan, a week later my colleague who helped me investigate died in a hiking accident. I couldn't prove anything, but I knew. I've been gathering evidence ever since, waiting for the right moment. Understanding passed between them. Both had lost someone to Ethan's ambition. Their planning session stretched into night, professional strategy giving way to personal comfort as exhaustion broke down remaining barriers. His arms around her felt like sanctuary, not weakness. Her phone buzzed with Ethan's text. "I have something you want. The original agreement your grandfather signed, proving everything was legal. Meet me alone or it disappears forever." Attached was a photo of a document she'd never seen, and her mother's locket that was supposed to have been buried with her. Alex read over her shoulder, face grim. "It's a trap. I know," she said, "but that's my mother's locket, and I'm done running from him." She entered Ethan's Atherton mansion alone, the golden envelope in hand, each knowing only one would walk away with their reputation intact. The modernist fortress on private acreage showcased Ethan's isolated wealth. Concrete and glass rising from manicured grounds where no neighbors could witness what happened inside. Security cameras tracked her approach to a man who destroyed families with the same casual efficiency his automated systems controlled room temperature. "Quite the performance at the board meeting," Ethan remarked, pouring himself scotch without offering her any. "Mariah would have been proud of your dramatic flair." "Don't speak her name," Naomi warned, remaining standing despite his gesture toward chair. "Why not? I was married to her." His smile never reached his eyes. "I know her better than you think." "You knew how to use her," Naomi countered, "just like you used her father." Something dangerous flickered across his face. "Business is about seeing opportunities others miss. Your grandfather missed his. I didn't. By opportunity, you mean murder?" The glass paused halfway to his lips. "Careful with accusations, Naomi. They might lead places you're not prepared to go." She placed her phone on the table between them, recording app running openly. "Like the fact that you paid Joseph Mercer to tamper with my grandfather's brakes? Or that you've had my mother's locket all these years after telling us it was lost?" His expression hardened. "You have quite the imagination. No wonder you and Alex make such a compelling team, though he should know better than to trust a Blake." "He's seen the evidence," she replied. "The offshore payments, the mechanic's sudden wealth, the missing maintenance records. Have you ever confronted someone who hurt you deeply? Did you get the closure you sought or discover that justice takes different forms than expected? Some battles require more courage than we believe we possess. Evidence can be interpreted many ways." Ethan shrugged, moving toward his desk. Like this document showing your grandfather willingly sold his designs. Signed and notarized. He produced a contract she'd never seen. Her grandfather's signature clearly visible. Forgery, she stated, though doubt flickered. The signature looked authentic. Believe what you want, he replied. But courts prefer documentation over decade-old vendettas. He reached for the golden envelope she'd placed on the table. Now, let's see what you're really offering. I wouldn't, she warned as his fingers touched the envelope. As Ethan lunged for the golden envelope, the terrace door shattered. Alex entered with federal agents, warrant in hand. Ethan Cross, you're under investigation for securities fraud, corporate espionage, and the agent paused, looking at Naomi, and conspiracy in the death of Thomas Blake. For the first time, genuine fear replaced arrogance in Ethan's eyes. The envelope's contents have already been submitted to authorities, Naomi explained calmly. Along with the recording, you just made admitting you saw opportunity in my grandfather's death. As agents recited his rights, Ethan's mask finally slipped completely. You're more like me than you realize, he spat. Using people, manipulating situations. No, she corrected quietly. I'm like my grandfather, smart enough to have backup plans. The morning headlines stripped away Ethan's carefully constructed myth, revealing the ruthless criminal beneath the tech visionary. While Naomi watched from the Justice Department as a decade of planning culminated in 11 federal charges. Justice Department windows framed San Francisco skyline like a living painting, the same view she'd strategized toward for years. Television screens mounted on walls displayed Ethan's perp walk in real time, his handcuffed wrists and disheveled appearance broadcasting to the world that giants could indeed fall. The evidence is substantial, the prosecutor explained. His private servers contained everything: payments to the mechanic, communications about removing Thomas Blake as an obstacle, even drafts of the forged sales agreement. He kept records of his own crimes? Naomi asked, incredulous. Powerful men often document their worst acts, the woman replied. They mistake history for legacy. Alex joined her at the window, their reflections overlapping against the city backdrop. The board voted unanimously this morning. They want you to lead the company transition. Me? Surprise colored her voice. After everything that's happened? Because of everything that's happened, he corrected. You understand both what the company was built on and what it could become. Plus, you're majority shareholder. They don't have much choice. The victory felt different than she'd imagined during those years of planning. Less triumphant, more sobering. 5,000 employees now look to her not just for leadership, but for redemption. What about you? She asked quietly. Your career has been at Cross Technologies. My career has been building something worthwhile, he corrected. The name on the building matters less than what happens inside it. When you've achieved your greatest goal, did it feel how you expected? Have you ever wondered, what next after dedicating years to a single purpose? Sometimes our greatest challenges begin after our missions end. Their hands found each other, professional boundaries dissolved by shared purpose and growing connection. Later, in her hotel suite, champagne marked not celebration but transition. The end of one chapter, the uncertain beginning of another. When Alex kissed her, it wasn't about revenge or victory, but possibility. What might exist beyond the mission that had defined her for so long? Clothes fell away, hesitation replaced by certainty. Each touch affirmed life, continuing after justice, pleasure possible after pain. Their bodies spoke truths their words were still learning to express, about trust, about future, about healing. Dawn found them tangled in sheets, planning not destruction, but creation. A company rebuilt on innovation rather than theft, teams united by purpose rather than fear. We should sleep, she murmured against his chest. Press conference in 4 hours. He agreed, not releasing her. First day of the rest of your life. Our life, she corrected softly. As sunrise painted the room golden, her phone chimed with breaking news. Ethan had been found unconscious in a cell. Beside him lay a handwritten confession, and her mother's locket, its clasp broken open to reveal a tiny microchip hidden inside for 10 years. Alex read the alert over her shoulder. "What's on the microchip?" "I don't know," she whispered, "but I think we're about to find out." The microchip contained what her mother had protected with her silence. The original source code proving Mariah's father had created the technology that built Ethan's first billion-dollar company. Morning light streamed through newly renamed Blake Technologies headquarters, employees gathering in the atrium where Mariah's portrait now hung beside her father's. The company whose innovation had been stolen was finally returning to the family who created it, not through destruction but restoration. "The code is remarkable," the chief engineer explained, projecting the recovered files onto the conference room screen. "Your grandfather was decades ahead of his time. These encryption protocols are the foundation of everything we've built." Naomi studied the elegant programming that had cost her grandfather his life, her mother her marriage, and shaped the course of her own existence. Strange how lines of code could carry such weight. Human dreams translated into digital form. "We've analyzed Ethan's confession," Alex added, scrolling through the document. "He admits tampering with the breaks, stealing the intellectual property, everything. His attorneys are negotiating a plea deal." "Will he serve time?" she asked. "Significant time," Alex confirmed. The murder conspiracy charges alone carried 20 years minimum. Justice had finally arrived, though not how she'd originally planned. Her grandfather's genius would now be properly credited in the company's history. Her mother's suffering acknowledged. The truth revealed. What would you do with victory once achieved? Would you rebuild what was broken or create something entirely new? True power isn't shown through destruction, but through what we choose to build from the ashes. But the most surprising outcome wasn't Ethan's fall or the company's restoration. It was her own transformation. The driven woman fueled by revenge had evolved into a leader focused on future rather than past. That evening, in the quiet of her new office overlooking the bay, Alex arrived with architectural plans. "The board approved the Mariah Blake Foundation," he announced. "We break ground next month, focusing on supporting women entrepreneurs from disadvantaged backgrounds." She studied the renderings of the building that would carry her mother's name. She would have loved helping other women avoid her fate. "You've honored her," Alex said softly, "and your grandfather. Now it's time to build your own legacy." Morning found them in her penthouse, sunlight illuminating their entwined forms. His fingers traced her features in golden light, conversation drifting between professional plans and deeply personal hopes. "Blake Technologies needs a CEO committed to its future," he murmured against her hair. "Someone who understands both its dark origins and bright potential." "That sounds suspiciously like a job offer," she replied, smiling against his chest. "More like a partnership proposal," he corrected. "In every sense." As they prepared for the press conference announcing the company's new direction, Alex pulled a small blue box from his pocket. "Before we face those cameras, there's something I've been wanting to ask you. Something about our future beyond this revenge story." Her heart raced as he opened it to reveal not a ring, but a key. "My home," he explained simply, "or ours, if you want it to be." She closed her fingers around the key, the symbol of a future she hadn't dared imagine during those years of calculated revenge. "Yes," she whispered, "definitely ours." 10 years after standing in the rain, watching her mother's life shatter, Naomi stood in California sunshine, breaking ground on the Mariah Blake Foundation, funded by the company her grandfather created and her own resilience restored. Portland's historic cemetery brightened with spring blooms as Naomi placed white roses on her mother's grave. "It's done, Mom," she whispered, sun warming the marble headstone. "Your father's company is restored. Ethan is facing justice, and I found something I never expected, a future beyond the past that defined us for so long." Alex waited respectfully by the car, understanding her need for this private moment. 6 months into their partnership, both professional and personal, they had transformed Blake Technologies from Ethan's weapon of destruction into a force for innovation and opportunity. The company's stock had recovered after initial turmoil. Employees rallied around their new leadership, The quantum computing division that had brought Naomi into the company as a consultant was now pioneering breakthroughs that would help millions. She would be proud, Alex said as she returned to him, taking his hand. Not just of the justice, Naomi replied, but of what came after. That's what I didn't understand when this began. Revenge was never the end of the story. The foundation groundbreaking ceremony later that afternoon brought together tech leaders, aspiring entrepreneurs, and Blake Technologies employees. Construction equipment stood ready to begin work on the building that would house programs supporting women in technology, offering the mentorship and protection Mariah had never received. 10 years ago, I made a promise over my mother's hospital bed, Naomi addressed the gathered crowd. I thought that promise was about revenge, making one man pay for what he'd done to our family. Today, I understand it was actually about restoration, reclaiming not just what was taken, but creating something new from what remained. Cameras flashed as she and Alex pressed the ceremonial shovel into California soil, officially beginning construction. Their hands overlapped on the handle, wedding bands catching sunlight. Their private ceremony 2 months earlier marking a personal foundation as significant as the concrete one being poured today. What would you build if you could create any legacy? After achieving justice, how would you transform pain into purpose? The most powerful life stories aren't about what was taken from us, but what we create afterward. Later that night, in the home they now shared overlooking the bay, Alex traced patterns across her bare shoulder as moonlight spilled through windows. Thinking about your mom? He asked, noting her thoughtful expression. About cycles, she clarified. How Ethan broke one family to build his power, and how we're using that same power to help other families. Poetic justice, he murmured against her hair. More than that, she said, turning to face him. It's breaking the pattern, taking something built on destruction and transforming it into creation. Their bodies moved together with the practiced familiarity of partners who had mapped each other's responses, yet still discovered new territories of connection. What had begun as attraction, complicated by revenge, had evolved into something neither had anticipated. A partnership of equals building a shared vision. Morning found them tangled in sheets, planning the day ahead. Her executive meeting, his product launch, their foundation oversight session. The rhythm of their new life unfolding with purpose extending far beyond the revenge that had initially driven her. Ready to change the world today? He asked, kissing her before rising. Already did that, she replied with a smile. Today's just about making it better. As dawn painted San Francisco in golden light, Naomi Blake, daughter, avenger, builder, embraced a truth her mother would have celebrated. The most powerful response to being underestimated isn't just proving others wrong. It's creating something they could never imagine.